Batman number 27, Tom King writing, Clayman on the art. And of course it's not Jarin, but this is kind of the first of two interlude issues where we focus on Kite Man, of all people.
You know, who would have thought last year when we got that Kite Man hell yeah joke that we were going to get a whole issue that makes Kite Man a beloved character?
The fact that hell yeah has now got significance beyond just being a punchline.
Yeah, it has meaning. I'm still going to laugh at it. I still love it in that way.
But it's changed your perspective on it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, because it turns out...
Big time.
So the reason why he becomes Kite Man, and the reason... Because what this issue is, it's basically the origin of Kite Man. It's why he becomes Kite Man. And he was this guy who... he did aerodynamics, and he did some work for supervillains, and he gets caught up in the Joker-Riddler war because Batman makes him set up a meeting with the Joker because he knows he can get to him because he's worked with him before, and then Riddler finds out and he comes and like kidnaps him and makes him do a double cross plan, and then Batman finds out about that, so he goes back to Batman and sets up a sort of triple cross plan, and then the Joker's pissed at him, and the whole thing sort of goes that way, and like it's basically all this tragedy, and it ends up that Riddler is actually... And we set up in one of the last issues of this arc that Riddler is not above going after family members. Like we really set that up with the prison guards, and we see it again here where he's like, "Oh, your wife and your son live here, and you know this is their names and whatnot." And later on, we find out that his son he really loves kites. He sees his son flying a kite, and it turns out the Riddler poisoned. They put stuff on the kite rope, which is made his son ill.
Yeah,
Dark
so
as
terrible.
shit,
It's very dark. And Kite Man's, distraught about this, and we keep hearing like news bulletins about the war going on, and they're debating like, should we pick a side? Should we give arms to one of the sides so they beat the other, and we can end this war once and for all? And it's as he's got it, it's like, so because the Riddler's the one who's like obviously done this to his son, Kite Man ultimately is going to side with the Joker, and we see him like making a kite, and the reason why the hell yeah comes into it is because his son said hell yeah whilst flying a kite, and he gave him out of trouble for it. And then later on, after he's ill...
his kid's like, what, 9, 10?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he says that you shouldn't say that, it's not good, and whatnot. And so, at the end, we get that moment. He goes, what are you, Kite Man?
Well, before that, his son says it again. Like, he brings it up when he's on the hospital bed, and he says, "Oh, I said that word again. I know I'm not supposed to."
Yeah, because that was it. The story was that his grandma always said that if you say that, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously Kite Man kind of accepts, you know what, I am going to hell. I'm becoming a villain to avenge my son, basically, was the kind of the ultimate gist of it.
And it's like, is that any different than Batman becoming a hero to avenge his parents? Like, it's this weird feedback loop.
It's similar. Obviously, there's differences, but like it depends. It depends what Kite Man ultimately is going to end up doing here. Like, how dark is Kite Man? Does Kite Man kill people? Does he?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I just mean it's a nice balance to that. It's like we see that Bruce lost his parents, and that was his motivation going forward. And now, Kite Man, who wanted no part, like we see throughout this entire issue, he's trying to dodge people. He tries to dodge Batman. He tries to dodge Joker and Riddler, and he just can't seem. Like it's a microcosm of this war of jokes and riddles that even this guy, random Joe Schmo, can't stay out of it. And I like that, and especially with King's, background in this, what was it, the CIA?
Yeah.
Like, it kind of speaks to other certain world events where you have an uprising of that kind, and do you arm the other side because it's better that one side takes out the other? Do you try to mediate between the sides? Is there any actual talking?
Comparing that to his time in the CIA with those issues is actually a really smart link. I never even thought of that. That's actually really good.
Yeah. It's like when you said the feedback loop kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's very much those issues that were talking about arming, and it comes back. And it's like it's your own problem then, and this is kind of what. Yeah. Riddler has essentially made Kite Man his own problem here.
Yep.
I'll tell you what I like about this issue a lot. I like that. Obviously, we've got a fill-in artist. The art's still pretty good. There's some really standout moments for me, but I like that despite the fact that it's kind of this like almost tangent, right? It's still very much about the war of Joker and Riddles because it's the effect on someone else. But it also keeps building to those same themes of like Batman's guilt over everything that was happening and what drove him. Because in this issue, like after Batman like because he promises him, I would protect your son, and he's fine, he's safe. And he assures him of that. And then later on, when Kite Man's actually at the hospital with his son, and there's that fantastic panel of Batman, like you can just see like parts of him because the blinds, it's just the lines of light as he's standing in the shadows. And even though nothing's being said, you get the guilt. Batman feels partly responsible.
It's it's not just the guilt. You can only see like a little bit of his face anyway, because like you say, it's all in the lines. But you can see the anger. That he's kind of let someone get caught, but he's angry at himself, not just feeling guilty.
He by going to Kite Man first, he initiated this whole line of events, and then he promised he would protect his son, and then he couldn't. He failed to do that. So there's so much like guilt and anger wrapped up in this. And again, as much as this is very much a kind of a tangent issue in terms of the main story, everything thematically still links in with Batman feeling guilty and what does all this drive him to do, which is what he's telling Selina in present day. Yeah. So it's good.
It does, and the panel that really gets me is probably my favorite panel of the book. Is it's right after that page that panel that you just said. It's Kite Man's sitting on the roof and Batman stood behind him, but he's just got his head down. Like you can tell he's just. How often do you see Batman with his head down, like that?
Yeah, he has nothing to say. He can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing he can do or say. He's failed, and
he tries, but he's kind of, he knows he's just kind of saying the words.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah, no, it was a great issue.
Also, Kite Man's name being Charles Brown, that was a touch too, because Joker brings that up. Like the comic strip character and whatnot, and yeah, there's. This issue is full of a lot of good moments, I think, just because it does focus on an average person. Like, yeah, he becomes Kite Man, but up to this, who was he? Like, we just know he was good with aerodynamics, because that's why Joker had initially brought him in.
Here's which, by the way, the fact that Kite Man's good with aerodynamics is just a fantastic link.
Yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it?
How he's good with these, like, his gliders and whatever else.
Yeah.
One of our favourite moments of the book, I'm looking at now, is when he gets the phone call from Riddler, and Riddler gives him the riddle that it's basically revealing that he's done something to his son. That page is just the kite flying, but then it falls and it lands on the
Crashes.
ground. And it's as if you imagine the panels of the camera's also tilting as it's doing it. It's a fantastic. It shows you the feeling of what's happening, and the feeling not only of the fact that his son's literally falling dead, but the fact that just like the feeling in Kite Man's stomach churning and like realizing what's happening. It's like his world's just falling away from him. All of it's said with the kite just falling to the ground. It's great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Also, just the name in general, the Ballad of Kite Man. Yeah. What a fantastic name.
Pretty good.
No?
What did we think of? Obviously, we mentioned art a little bit. What did you think of Man's art here?
I think it's solid. I think he's usually pretty dependable.
He tells a really good story sequentially, because there's those sequences in the bar, like where he's just sitting there, but everything else is going on around him.
Yeah.
Like when Batman sneaks up on him, and like where Clayface comes to pick him up for the Riddler, like it's all the same.
And they're
it
both
feels like a tracking shot in a movie.
Yeah, they're both very similar moments as well, where the character's sneaking up behind them. It's almost like he's kind of oblivious to what's going on right now until he's wakened up by this tragedy that happens to him. So it's he's not paying attention yet.
I love the page in between those two that you mentioned, where it's just like the 4 panels of Riddler on his face, and it's just him looking up and then looking back down, and you really get that sense of motion of him moving his head.
Yeah, it was a great issue, which it's kind of funny because like as it starts, like, oh yeah, this is what I didn't know this issue is. All right, expectations lowered a little bit because we're sort of breaking away from the main story, but then by the end of it, it was like, oh no, that was actually really good, and it actually added a lot to the main story, despite the fact that it is kind of this sort of interlude. So great issue, Batman. Great issue.
Yeah, very much.